All right, folks, so we are back on the W.A.D.E concept presented by The Ring. But today, folks, we are talking MMA because UFC 319 is just around the corner. You do not want to miss it. Khamzat Chimaev taking on Dricus du Plessis for the UFC Middleweight Championship of the World. This fight, in my opinion, is going to go one of two ways. We're going to break it down. We're also going to talk about the co-main event and the Aaron Pico title run starting Saturday, in my opinion, as well as some other fights on the card. But the main event, like I said, Khamzat Chimaev, Dricus du Plessis. I see the path to victory for both guys being very straightforward and very simple. But I could be wrong, and it is fighting 50-50s at the end of the day, but let's take a look at my final predictions for UFC 319. But before we do, I want to say a big thank you to the sponsor of today's video, DraftKings. That's right, folks. UFC 319 is back in the Windy City, Chicago, Illinois, for the first time in 6 years, and you can get in on all the action thanks to DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the UFC. Dricus du Plessis puts his middleweight title on the line versus Khamzat Chimaev, who is 14-0, who looks like the scariest man in the middleweight division. And my biggest question to you is, who you got? Because it's really simple when using DraftKings Sportsbook. If it's your first time betting, just pick something simple like your favorite fighter to win. Make that pick. It's really that simple. And if you are new to DraftKings, check this out. New customers that bet $5 get an instant $200 in bonus bets. Once again, $5 gets you $200 in bonus bets instantly. So don't miss out on all the action this week at UFC 319, the main event and the co-main event, Aaron Pico, Lerone Murphy. There's tons of stuff to get you started by downloading the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code WADE. That's right, code WADE. When you download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, will get you $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. And that's in one place only, DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. Thank you to DraftKings for sponsoring this video. Always, always gamble responsibly. Now, let's get into my final prediction. All right, so like I said, UFC 319 this Saturday in the Chi-Town, Chicago, Illinois, and this is a banger of a card, man. Kaya Asakura, Tim Elliott to start out the main card. I'm looking through the prelims now. We got King Green on the prelims, Gerald Mearshart, Jessica Andrade, Alexander Hernandez, and Chase Hooper, man. Feels like Chase Hooper is like in perpetual limbo there. Edson Barbosa on this card. Man, yeah, some OGs in the game on this one. But we're going to take a look at the main card, and we're going to start with the Michael Venom Page and Jared Cannonier fight. I mean, listen, no one's been able to strike with Michael Venom Page since he's got in the UFC, really since ever, outside of Douglas Lima hitting him with an uppercut as MVP tried to be all snake-like and flatlining him there. But in the UFC especially, Ian Gary had to grapple with him. He beat Shara at his own game. He's just a difficult matchup for a lot of people. I don't care if he is close to 40 at this point and he got into the UFC late. He's fighting a guy in Jared Cannonier that's also up there in age. He also has that weakness of, being able to go strike for strike with some of the higher level guys. And also, Jared can be exposed going strike for strike with some of the higher level guys. But the main factor I see here is obviously the weight that Michael Venom Page is fighting at. It's 170, it's 185, it's 170, 185. He's bouncing around a little bit, but also his height, his reach for 170 or 185. It's kind of like Kevin Holland when you watch him fight. It's kind of insane to see how much taller he is than guys, even at 185. And his reach is incredible. He's got a 79-inch reach there. So I don't know if Jared Cannonier is going to do a ton of grappling. If he does, he can slow this fight down and potentially make it a boring decision, kind of like Ian Gary did to MVP. But if this does remain a striking bout, MVP will win this fight, in my opinion. I think he has enough ability. He's got great timing. He's obviously explosive. Potentially, you could see Jared Cannonier tries to grapple. I don't think Jared Cannonier is a big-time grappler in his own right, so maybe that attempt makes him more fatigued, opens him up to more shots. I mean, we're only going 3 rounds here, and I think Jared has fought an average of 15 minutes or so in the UFC, and that's probably because he's been in 5-round fights multiple times now, but I don't know. I think MVP can win a decision here. I think Cannonier, if he does try to grapple a little more, you would think potentially there's a chance for him to win a decision, but I think striking, if we're gonna go strikes for strike, Cannonier is more open to being hit, but also more open to hitting Michael Venom Page. You see his strikes landed per minute, strikes absorbed per minute, but when MVP does throw, he throws with high velocity, looking to damage and looking to hurt you, so, fight could go either way. I'm gonna rock with MVP though. It may not be a super flashy performance, and it may be something where he wins by just a little bit more striking, just a little bit more damage, but I can see this being a bit of a stalemate coming into that third round and one big shot making the difference, and I think MVP will be the more accurate guy, take less damage. This welterweight bout next, Carlos Prates and Geoff Neal, two just scrappers, dude. Two guys that are really going to go for it, I hope, in this fight. You look at their shots landed per minute. Geoff Neal, his output a little bit higher, but he also absorbs more per minute. Carlos Prates, when he's not out here chain smoking and destroying his lungs, he is a wizard on the feet. Obviously tattooed Muay Thai on his chest for a reason. The guy is a high-level striker. So again, you're looking at another fight that I think is super close, but I just think Carlos Prates, for whatever reason, maybe it's his reach, maybe it's the way I've watched him fight, the way I watched him fight Ian Gary after being controlled in that fight for a long period, still having the ability to potentially knock you out at any point. Geoff Neal's been in there with some of the toughest guys at welterweight, but I'm going to lean Carlos Prates here. I do. I think he ends up getting this done. Yeah, I mean, you even look at their takedowns and takedown defense. These guys are not going to go to the ground, or at least you wouldn't expect them to end up in many grappling exchanges outside of some clinch work and, you know, re-separating from there and getting back to the striking. I'm going to go Prates. Both guys are getting knockdowns in each fight they're in. Prates has 2 per fight average. I can see Prates stopping him. Yeah, I can see that. Let's go Prates by stoppage. Then we get to the co-main event, and oh, I am excited about this. I have put all my eggs in the basket of Aaron Pico making his debut in the UFC. I love this kid. I really do. And listen, Lerone Murphy is a high-level prospect making his way through the rankings in his own right. Number 6 in the world at featherweight. Just come off a 5-round decision where he pretty much beat the shit out of Josh Emmett and dominated that fight. But I'm telling you right now, even the UFC don't even have Aaron Pico's debut picture up here, man. They got him as a blank slate. I know he's 13-4 in MMA. I know he lost his debut. I know that Aaron Pico is a Bellator guy, and he's coming over, and Bellator guys haven't had a ton of success in the UFC, even though people love watching Michael Venom Page and Michael Chandler and some other guys as well. But the point is, this, I think, could be the time where we finally see the prophecy come to life for Aaron Pico. If you guys don't know who Aaron Pico is, and you know, you just started watching MMA 4 or 5 years ago, Aaron Pico back in 2016, I think was the time period, maybe even 2015, I'm not sure, was supposed to be the next big prodigy in MMA. This kid was supposed to be the next coming of, I hate to put this on him, but Roger Huerta, right? Like, if you don't know who that is, he was like the first MMA fighter on Sports Illustrated, but he was supposed to be, you know, John Jones reincarnated. He was leading the idea that MMA was practiced as a complete martial art versus being a specialist coming into MMA. Like Aaron Pico had already, I think he was 17 years old and 1 match away from qualifying for the USA wrestling, like Olympic wrestling team. He was a Gold Gloves boxer, and he was mixing the martial arts when he made his pro debut, and then everything kind of went left for a while. He lost his first fight, got knocked out in I think his 5th or 6th fight, lost a couple more times, and you thought, okay, maybe the hype train's over for Aaron Pico. But after that, quietly, Aaron Pico has gotten better and better and better. In Bellator, I get it, competition is not the same as it is in the UFC, clearly, but you watch his style, he's not a big time kicker, it is mostly offensive boxing, body work, hooks to the body. He's knocked out some guys with nasty lead hooks to the body and upstairs. And then clinch work and grappling. He's got good knees in the clinch. The only problems with Aaron Pico is that he does drop his hands and wants to get into some firefights sometimes in the clinch and gets caught there and clipped. He's been knocked out doing that a couple times, but it seems like he's shored that up. He's implemented his wrestling more into his game. When he was a youngster, you know, I think he's 28 now, but when he came into MMA as a pro, he was 18. He was looking to knock people out with his hands. Wasn't utilizing his almost Olympic level wrestling at 17 years old. You knew he was bound for the Olympics. Wasn't utilizing it, and now he is. So Lerone Murphy taking this against Pico, that was a big time shot for him too, because he didn't need to fight an unranked guy in his debut coming into the UFC from Bellator as the number 6 featherweight in the world. So this will be an interesting fight. Murphy doesn't really impress with his power, at least not to the degree Aaron Pico does, but he's able to control fights, and that's got him to this number 6 spot. Pico, very flashy at times, has some big time knockouts, has some big time finishes, but can he sustain at this level, right? This is, like I said, the big boy leagues. So we'll see. Purely off bias alone, I'm taking Aaron Pico, but it's a lot to ask. It really is. It's a lot to ask for Aaron Pico to come in and face the number 6 guy in the world and, you know, and swim with the Sharks here. Because Lerone Murphy certainly is that, especially over his last couple of wins. Josh Emmett, Edson Barboza, Dan Ige, he's got all those. And he's 16-0. So this is a big time step up. I'm gonna say Aaron Pico, again, pure bias, because the matchup itself is pretty interesting for the way Lerone Murphy fights. He could be a bit of an issue for Pico if he keeps this thing at distance and kind of frustrates Pico because he can't get to him with his hands, or he's not able to grapple with him. But I do think Pico grapples him. Maybe a submission on the table here for Pico, I don't know. But I'm gonna say he gets it done by some sort of stoppage, because I think he needs that. I think Aaron Pico needs to arrive in the UFC on the main stage of MMA with a big time statement, and I hope he does that in the co-main. Then we get to the main event of the evening, and this one has take your pick written all over it, right? I have looked at it, and I can see multiple avenues for both guys, but realistically, you come down to two choices, at least in my opinion. Number one, it's an early versus late fight. Early on, Khamzat Chimaev, very dangerous. A very, very unique and talented grappler that doesn't do things other guys do as far as how he enters grappling, how he holds you down, how he continues to attack, how he systematically breaks you down once he has a hold of you and puts you on the fence. When you watch him shoot at guys' legs, he doesn't really do it from conventional spots, right? Whether it's underneath a right or left hand and he ducks under and gets your waist, he is attacking almost like, not in the same way, but kind of in the same way Khabib used to attack, diving at your legs from long range, right? It's something that he'll shoot from what looks like 5 yards away. Like he's not even close to touching you with a right hand or a jab or a kick. And here he goes diving at your ankle or diving at your knee. And if he gets a hold of it and he works his way up, then it's almost GG's from there. So that's, I would say, what everybody understands is the most likely scenario for Khamzat to overwhelm Dricus with his grappling early. And I'm not saying he has to land the first takedown, but if you watch him in the Robert Whittaker fight, he came out southpaw and did a lot of feinting, did a lot of, stuff with his legs and his feet to try to get Robert Whittaker to settle down a bit, or just to use that to pressure Whittaker against the cage. And then from there, shot at the legs, got it, broke the jaw, or whatever happened there. We all know the rest. I don't know if that is going to be the case, because Dricus du Plessis has such a will to win that even when he's in bad positions, even when he's being outstruck, Darren Till, Israel Adesanya, or when things are not going his way and he needs to create a moment, he's a great scrambler, he's unorthodox, he's a bit awkward, and he just finds ways out of bad spots and turns them into really good ones for him. I mean, even in the Robert Whittaker fight, that fight goes from Robert Whittaker having a good amount of success, at least for a bit there, to just Dricus running him over out of almost nowhere. It's like, what the Darren Till fight before the deviated septum got fixed. He's on the feet getting pieced up by Darren Till, who's no longer even in the UFC, even though he'll be fighting on Misfits August 30th. I'll be there. Make sure you tune in. But then he out-grapples Darren Till and then figures out how to beat him, chokes him. And it's just like he has a will to win. What did he say? I'm willing to die in there, but more importantly, I'm willing to kill a man. And I know that sounds super morbid, but in the case of Dricus du Plessis, it's kind of true. He fights like that. Like every last breath is dedicated to winning. Like no situation is without hope. Now again, if Khamzat gets that freaking arm under his chin and starts to squeeze, it may not mean shit what I'm saying right now. Like Khamzat has a different level of strength and size, apparently, according to Twitter, because today they had a little face-off that we're gonna take a look at. This is the first interaction apparently they've had during fight week. Little handshake. And that was it. Now, if you watch this on Twitter, the MMA experts will tell you that both guys mogged each other, which I think I'm a little too old to understand. That Khamzat was fidgety, that Dricus was fidgety, that he emasculated Dricus, that Dricus humiliated Khamzat by tapping him on the shoulder and sunning him. In other words, none of that shit means anything. Yeah, you can take away from this, if you wanted to post a screenshot, that Khamzat is tall, right? He is. He's about, I think, 6'3", 6'4". He's a tall guy. And for that height, and at this weight, he's very strong. He's not, a bodybuilding, just super jacked up monster like that, but he is strong in all the right areas. He's got great grip strength, his legs are super strong, and he's explosive. And for a tall guy, when he does shoot across the cage, like he does on seemingly everyone after the Gilbert Burns fight, which we'll come back to, that's a massive advantage. Having his height, being able to, his reach, being able to get to your legs and work his way up. Dricus, on the other hand, is tall in his own right, but he's not the most towering figure at middleweight, but he doesn't have to be to do what he does to people. Israel Adesanya towered over Dricus too, and again, Dricus found a way to beat him and had a reach on him in the striking, and Dricus found a way to beat him. So that stuff doesn't really matter to me. You'll get the body language experts and everybody else talking about what matters and people looking into it, but that's complete bullshit. What isn't bullshit is the idea that Khamzat can be beat. I think right now, because he's 14-0, because he's pretty much steamrolled everyone, there's an aura of invincibility around Khamzat. But it seems people have a lot of short memory because we did just watch him arguably lose to Kamaru Usman in their fight, or at least have a draw in their fight. You could argue that Gilbert Burns, while Gilbert Burns may not have beaten him, or maybe you thought that Gilbert Burns did, he put hands on Khamzat Chimaev and made Khamzat rethink about standing there and striking with even the gatekeeping level of striking ability at welterweight, let alone middleweight. So right, you've seen where some weaknesses have been exposed from Khamzat Chimaev. Not being able to go strike for strike with Gilbert Burns. When you have a high-level kickboxer, as much as y'all want to say Dricus is just throw and pray, he is, it might be awkward, but it works. And he is a high-level kickboxer. He knows what he's doing in there. It is unorthodox, and I don't know how much Khamzat can train for it. And listen, I know Khamzat was in Orange County training. He was right there at Jackson Gym. He was up in LA doing his thing. I know Armin was out there with him. Aaron Pico was out there with him, and they were getting work done. So I don't doubt that Khamzat will be ready at all. I don't doubt that his conditioning is in good shape. But since Dricus got that freaking septum fixed, I've watched him become an almost unstoppable machine of cardio where nothing seems to really break him. Where Khamzat, I've seen get tired when he gets into the later parts of fights, and the striking's not as effective, and the grappling's not as effective, and he's standing there taking punches and not necessarily as explosive and active and looking for those takedowns like he was earlier. And I'm mainly talking about the Gilbert Burns fight, but you know, Kamaru Usman as well, he slowed down a little bit. So over 5 rounds, this is why I said one of two things happens. Khamzat early with his grappling, or Dricus wears him down and takes over late in this fight. And I don't know. I don't know, because Khamzat is so strong, and this is where I think a little bit of the conversation changes. If Khamzat isn't able to stop Dricus early, and Dricus is able to keep that pressure mounting, and Khamzat starts to gas a little bit, and again, he's kind of floated between weights, and he's had the sickness, and he's been out for long periods and all that, this may be the point where all that catches up to him in a fight, where it's not 3 rounds, and in that 3rd round, he can just let the gas tank flow and hope for the best. He's got to go the full 5 and take the belt off the champ. I think this is gonna be that moment where it finally catches up to Khamzat. Not because he's not trained well, he's not conditioned well, but because the style in which he fights is so explosive so early on, and so offensive control grapple heavy that their arms eventually are going to get tired, unless your name's Merab Dvalishvili, and then I don't know what you're on. But maybe Khamzat's cut from the same cloth. We just haven't seen it yet, so there's a lot of we don't know what we don't know. That's the biggest problem here. So when it comes down to it, like I said, I think it's a two-way street that we're looking at for this fight. I think Khamzat, very dangerous early. I think he starts to fade a little later. Dricus, if he can weather the storm early, and trust me, it's gonna be a freaking thunderstorm, hailstorm. It's gonna be a fucking hurricane when Khamzat walks through that 1st round. He may be a little patient and feigning to start out, but as soon as that first shot comes out, Khamzat's gonna go balls to the fucking wall. So Dricus's mentality and the way he is just cut down champion after champion after champion makes me want to lean Dricus du Plessis and still. Because what I thought would give Dricus real problems would be a taller guy that could strike from the outside and pick him apart. And Izzy did give him those problems. I think Izzy was probably up in their fight before, again, Dricus just found a way to scramble and jumped on top of Izzy and choked him. I think that is probably the best way to handle Dricus. Now, again, does Dricus have the same grappling as Khamzat Chimaev? No, but he doesn't have to. He just has to have enough to defend himself and get back to his feet. And that may mean time and time again early on, but if he can weather that storm, I think he has a really good chance. The problem is, I could be saying all this, and Khamzat could go out there, shoot once, take him down, get the arm under the neck crank, or rear naked choke, and it's over. Like that. And it's just like, well, okay, never mind. None of this shit mattered. So, it's just hard for me to go, Khamzat's just gonna do what he's done to 12 other guys to Dricus du Plessis. It's very hard for me to see that. Not because it's not a reality of what can happen, but because certainly as you step up in competition, you can't just make it look that easy, right? Like you can't just continue making it look that easy. I know Robert Whitaker, that one, I don't even know if like that was Khamzat or it was Robert and his whole jaw came apart. I don't know. That was freaky. And if something like that happens again, I'll never doubt Khamzat Chimaev's grappling strength or anything like that. He could maybe just Habib his way through 185, 170, and 205 if he wants to, if we're talking about that level of freak. But I'm going to err on the side of caution here and say that's not the only thing that this fight's going to be. I think it's going to go a little longer than that, and because of that, I think Dricus du Plessis can and will and still win this fight. I don't know if it'll be a decision. I don't know if eventually Khamzat gets tired and Dricus goes on offense and looks for TKO strikes or whatever it is, but I think Dricus is going to turn the tide on Khamzat Chimaev. And I'm probably wrong on that, and I'll probably get flamed by the MMA community, but I just think Dricus's mentality, the way he trains, I don't think it's as easy this time for Khamzat as just walking in, taking him down, choking him, or you know, ground and pound, whatever. And if he does want to stand and strike with Dricus, then I think that could be a potential issue as well. But hey, who knows? And the casual concept over here, when we make picks, they usually go the other way. So if you're gonna play on DraftKings, make sure you guys do so responsibly. But that's UFC 319, my breakdown. What happens in the United Center in Chicago between the champ, Dricus du Plessis, and Khamzat Chimaev? What happens on Saturday? Don't have those answers, but guess we'll find out.